ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। 11 to 20. भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते सम्प्राप्ते सन्निहिते काले नहि नहि रक्षति डुकृन्करणे मा कुरु धनजन यौवनगर्वं हरति निमेषा काल सर्वं मायामयमिदम् अखिलं बोद्ध्वा ब्रह्मपदं त्वं प्रविश विदित्वा दिनयामिन्यौ सायं प्रातः शिशिरवसन्तौ पुनरायातः कालः क्रीडति गच्छत्यायुः तदपि न मुञ्चत्याशावायुः काते कान्ता धनगतचिन्ता वातुलकिं तव नास्ति नियन्ता त्रिजगति सज्जन संघतिरेका भवति भवार्णव तरणी नौका जटिलो मुण्डी लुञ्चितकेशः काषायाम्बर बहुकृतवेषः पश्यन्नपि च न पश्यति मूढो ह्युदरनिमेत्तं बहुकृतवेषः अङ्गं गलितं फलितं मुण्डं दशनविहीनं जातं तुण्डं वृद्धो याति गृहीत्वा दण्डं तदपि न मुञ्चति आशापिण्डम् अग्रे वह्निः पृष्ठे भानुः रात्रौ चुबुकसमर्पितजानुः करतलभिक्षस्तरुतलवासः तदपि न मुञ्चत्याशापाशः कुरुते गङ्गा सागरगमनं व्रतपरिपालनमथवा दानं ज्ञानविहीनः सर्वमतेन मुक्तिं न भजति जन्मशतेन सुरमन्दिरतरुमूलनिवासः शय्याभूतलमजिनं वासः सर्वपरिग्रह भोगत्यागः कस्य सुखं न करोति विरागः योगरतो वा भोगरतो वा संघरतो वा संघविहीनः यस्य ब्रह्मणि रमते चेत्तं नन्दति नन्दति नन्दत्येव भगवद्गीता किञ्चिदधीता गङ्गाजललव कणिका पीता सकृदपि येन मुरारिसमर्चा क्रियते तस्य यमेन न चर्चा भज गोविन्दं Govindam bhaja mudhamate samprapte san nihite kale nahi nahi rakshati dukrin karane nahi nahi rakshati dukrin karane nahi nahi rakshati dukrin karane. Hari Om, Namaskaram to everyone. The last we did was the 16th verse. Where we tried to understand how a spiritual practitioner goes about practicing spirituality, practicing asceticism externally. Spirituality is not defined or determined by your physical position or your status or your location. So a person here who tries to live a life of an ascetic, but the result of that is yet the noose of desires leaves not. The desires don't drop off. The desires and attachments for the lower hold you. You're not truly liberated at all. So we learned asceticism is not about dispossession of objects or beings. Asceticism, or that spirit of renunciation, is not determined by possession or enjoyment. That the spirit of renunciation, which is a quality of sattva, a sattvic quality, is a state of your mind. So it's not a physical state, it's a mental state. So tamas is to dispossess something, is to separate yourself from association with the world, due to ignorance. Could be one of the reasons you part with it. You want to separate from the world out of mental agitation or pain involved with it. You give it away because there's a lot of mental trauma. So from a third person's perspective, when they look at you renouncing something, they know not why you're giving it up. You give up something out of ignorance. An example is given of a lady who is so preoccupied with something, she goes to the backyard with a trash bag in one hand and her handbag in the other, She's so occupied with something. She gets rid of her handbag in the dustbin and takes the trash bag back into the house. And she doesn't realize it. Another person who looks at her getting rid of her handbag. So what a lady of renunciation. She's giving away her handbag. She gave it away. She had given it away out of ignorance. The moment she realizes that she's holding the trash bag and not a handbag, and then comes the frantic run, she would have easily beaten P.T. Usha or Ben Johnson any day. She would run to that garbage bin and where is my bag? Where is my bag? All my things, all my belongings, my phone, my cards, my this and that, everything is there. That's my life. She holds on to it so dearly. But at that point of parting, apparently parting, he gave it away out of ignorance, not knowing what you're giving away. You do not know the value of it. You do not know the value of it. Or you are, there was a actual information that a person was using a stone as a door stopper. For many years, he just used it as a door stopper. Much later, he realized it was one of the most valuable diamonds. So valuable, it's one of the most precious diamonds ever found. If he had known the value, would he have put it as a door stopper? No, out of ignorance. You part with something out of pain. So the person who sees you parting doesn't relate the pain associated with it. Can you think of an example where you renounce something because there's a pain associated with it? That's not true renunciation. So it's not, what we are trying to say is dispossession is not renunciation. It's a tamasic quality. It is tamas, it's the lowest of all to part with something because out of either ignorance or a pain. Think of an example where you part with something because it's causing troublesome. You give it away because it doesn't give you any more joy or charm, rather it gives a lot of pain and discomfort. Any example anyone can think of? RPG, to begin with.
So I was just thinking of like, you give away something perhaps that's expensive but it has a lot of maintenance to it. You know, just I'm thinking of like you bought a vehicle, you know, I mean, classic in the day were German vehicles, right? Once they came off warranty, they were very, very high maintenance, very expensive to get the parts. And so someone sees you with that and you give it up. It's maybe not the best example, but you're not giving it up because you don't want an expensive high-end motor vehicle. You're giving it up because you don't want to deal with the headache of the
maintaining it
and maintenance. I don't want to deal
sheer
with
maintenance. Yeah. So it's not that you have, so what you're parting with something which is valuable, not because you have lost value for it, because it associates a certain pain and a troublesome and a cost factor. But you're not, what you have not parted is the value. You deep within you have an appreciation, a value. In fact, many a time, a person who parts with it at a tamasic level has a black market value for it. So I can put on a robe of a spiritual person, but if I am mentally indulging in the sensual pleasures of the world, we learned a little earlier, I'm a hypocrite. Because why am I indulging in the world? because I have a black market value. I have a deep appreciation of value for it. I'm indulging in it, but I put on a robe perhaps because I may be genuinely interested, not intending to be a hypocrite, but I may be interested in it. But my mind still has a value for that. I've not risen above it. So externally, I put on a garb and I'm sitting in an ashram, or I'm away from all these apparent comforts and indulgences. But my mental value determines I have not yet renounced it. So don't go by the physical act, the physical position. What is the mental status of the value you have for it? All right. So that is a state of tamas, is not dispossession. Rajasic state, people are extremely possessed. They possess it. They're extremely possessed by it. It causes enormous pain and agony. It causes a great discomfort. It constantly hurts them, but they're not able to get rid of it. It haunts them. It causes extreme pain, but you can't get rid of it. Sriniji, example of a rajasic state where there is attachment, you possess it, it causes great pain, but you can't get rid of it. Any example?
Good morning, Guruji. I'm
Yes.
still thinking about it.
You get the concept though, isn't it? You're possessed. So you possess it, but rather than possessing and enjoying, you have lost that. It causes pain. So you have lost the status of being a master or a monarch. You're subjected to pain because it is the roles are reversed. The object starts possessing you. You are no more the possessor.
And it is a weird example I can give you. I used to be a runner, and when you run, after some time, your bones start saying, "Hello, I exist," and you run, and it still aches, so it causes pain, and you're not detaching from it because emotionally you still love to run, or mentally you want to run, and you really have a problem after that.
Okay,
that's the closest I can think, but that's pretty much not where I think the lines you're trying to get to.
You're right. You understood me correctly. Now let's ask others. Let's ask anyone else. Hirenji, any idea where you possess it and it causes pain?
Like someone pretty rich person owning a valuable car or valuable possession, but living in a country that there is a rampant theft or this or that, and constantly worrying about it. This is a very valuable thing, but somebody is going to steal it away from me, and being disturbed constantly about it.
Perhaps you could say, if you're attached to your wealth and what wealth can buy to you, but you're no way of able to address the insecurities that arise around it, isn't it?
Right. It's like living in a country. I don't want to name a country, but there are many countries. It happens pretty frequently that you own a property and with a Mercedes outside, and you'll be constantly worrying that somebody is going to take it away or steal it away.
Yeah. Now, when you say of this, I remember of a family in Malaysia, very close. In fact, I think she's also there. I don't want to take name of her. A family very dear to us, and I've known them for quite long. And for this particular reason, they said we would not want to attract attention. And they were, I think, a good 45 minutes outskirts of Kuala Lumpur, a beautiful nice town tucked away, very, very scenic, very beautiful place. And they said, we didn't want to buy any of these luxury cars because for the simple reason, you're just drawing attention.
That's right.
No, I don't mean to use that reference in the wrong context. I'm just reminded of that example.
Yeah, I lived in a couple of countries and I experienced that feeling, including Kuala Lumpur.
Okay.
But Kuala Lumpur was the best of the other 2-3 countries.
Okay. But having said that, I've lived for 15 years. I've never had any insecurity. I'm sorry to differ in that.
No, that's the kind of, yeah.
It is,
now I may not be feeling it because I'm understanding about life more than when I was young.
Yes, no, it is only a general sentiment what you say, but invariably it's only a state of your mind. You can feel very secure with everything, or you can feel insecure with what little you have, so that attachment, you have a fear of losing your job or your position. You feel somebody is constantly wanting to get your belongings or something. You have a fear of losing it. That's Rajas is a state of possession, and you're being possessed by your possessions. Reddy Garu, I see a smile there.
I think, Namaskaram, Guruji.
Yes,
so
sir.
I'm just thinking of in line that, like, most of the Hyderabadis have to have passion. Sorry to mention that, but have passion to hold the properties. So they stay some part of the countries, the properties are like here. So always they have a feeling of that what is going to happen, the property, they fence it, they're trying to struggle to see the return that nobody is going to occupy. So I think it's getting connected to me. We having the position and it is continuously getting connected with that.
Yeah. So you possess it and there's a constant fear associated with what will happen to it.
Yeah.
So that's the state of Rajas. Now, Sattva is a state where you possess it, you may enjoy it, yet you are not possessed by it. You're not a slave to it. You're well risen above it. So it is measured by your mental attitude of dispossessiveness. So sattvic renunciation is you are not parting with the object or being, you are still in association with it, but mentally you have risen above the bondages that arise out of a wrong relationship. Attachment is nothing but a wrong relationship with the world. So sattvic renunciation is your action continues. That's the key. You keep performing, you keep doing your duties, but mentally you have risen above it. So there is no possessiveness of your possessions. So it's purely measured with your mental attitude of dispossessiveness towards your possessions. So please understand, spirituality is not measured with your extent of possession or enjoyment. You have wrong tools to measure spirituality. So today you will brand a person who is living a life of simplicity as spiritual. But that doesn't mean by leading a spiritual life, you're not wrong. So you can't, whom you emulate, you will follow the life of Lord Krishna or Lord Rama. You may say, I think Lord Krishna is little maja in life, no? Why not? He also did. Why also should follow what Lord Krishna did? Have maja. Life is, what is the purpose of life? Enjoy life. You, Lord, did it. A boring life Lord Rama had. Somebody took away his wife. He went running behind to get her. What is this so boring life? I don't want. So it's not where you are. It's not whom you want to emulate. It's purely determined by the state of your mind. In fact, in the 19th verse, if I'm not wrong, let me reconfirm that. Yeah, in the 19th verse, he's going to give us that assurance. But the subject or the main point you have to reconcile within is what is the state of your mind. So if you are not possessed by the object of your possession, you are a man of renunciation. That is truly renunciation. In fact, there's a beautiful analysis of renunciation, which we recently did in one of the sessions. I don't think we have done for you all. Some of them who are there in those sessions will, it's refreshing to them. But there are few points to keep in mind if you want to judge or measure your level of renunciation. How do you test your level of renunciation? First and foremost, okay, before I get to that, somebody is Ushama, I think. Yeah, it's just, you're asking this question. Did you ask something, Ushama?
Namaste, Guruji. I was
Yes.
asking whether the same principle applies to your family members or to your relations with whom you have a possessive attitude.
Oh yes, in fact, that's perhaps one of the most difficult tests to pass. It's easier to be detached to material possessions, but it's difficult to be detached to the most realm, the most profound realms of attachments. Where we are most attached is the most difficult to practice detachment, isn't it? So, in fact, that is where we said your real measure of detachment or renunciation is measured only in areas of your attachment. So you measure your strength in only areas of your weakness, not in areas of your strength, isn't it? Because that is growth. You measure renunciation in areas where you are attached to. That's when you really practice it. Can I say you have renounced, or you have total vairagya towards alcohol?
In my case, I don't have. Yes.
What is don't have?
Means I don't drink, so I don't
have
know.
don't have vairagya. You please communicate.
I mean, I can't think. I mean, I cannot talk about it, Guruji.
Yeah. So it is very fair, even without you clarifying. So it's, you have no desire, no vasana, no interest towards alcohol. All right. Now, can we say that you have renounced alcohol? Oh, you are very detached to alcohol.
I can't say.
You can't say that, can you?
No.
So what are the conditions? What are the pointers to take into account to actually measure your level of renunciation? So glad you asked this question, and it led me to what I was actually leading to say. What are the few points where you must keep in mind you want to measure? The first thing is you must have an interest. You must have a desire for it. You must have a desire for the object. Secondly, the object must be available for you. You must have the object. It's available, you can go and get it. Thirdly, you must have the capacity to procure the object. The fourth is you must have the capacity to enjoy the object. And then you have no value for the object. What are the points I just mentioned? Sriniji, what are the points we just mentioned? Did you jot down? No. Sir, with a pen in your hand and a paper ahead of you, you are supposed to jot it down, sir. I don't know what you're doing, unless you're doing some other work.
No, I'm not.
Where is your mind then? Don't ask me that question.
Wandering.
I know that.
Wandering a little bit. perceptive man that you are.
Yeah. No. It only talks of how good your camera is. That's about all, It's revealing more than what it should reveal. So the 5 points I've just made to use as a measuring tool to test your level of dispossessiveness or the spirit of renunciation. What are the 5 aspects? Let's hear from RPG. RPG has taken note. Yes. Let's see whether he's got it right.
So assessing level of renunciation must have an interest or desire for the object or being. The object must be available for you.
Yes.
You must have the capacity to procure the object.
Yes.
You have the capacity or desire to enjoy the object, yet you have no value to the object.
Yes. So the 5 things, first is you must have a desire for the object. Second is the object is available. Third, you have a capacity to procure it. Fourth, you have a capacity to enjoy it. And then you say, thank you very much. I'm not interested. I have no value for it. Then you have truly risen above the temptations from the materiality and sensuality of that particular object or being. Because attachment is, when does one develop an attachment? Attachment is only when you give a value to something, isn't it, RPG? You have given a value to something and then you develop an attachment. Just because it is around you or amidst you doesn't mean you must be attached to it. The Shastras speak about men who lived a life of complete renunciation. In fact, 2 names we often mention, I'm mentioning them in 2 different contexts. King Janaka was said to be a man of great renunciation, a king who lived in opulence. He is always said to be a man of renunciation. And then Lord Shiva is often described of a man of renunciation who was with his family, attending to the family chores, bringing up his 2 kids and the family and whatever that dynamics of life. Lord Shiva is said to be a man of renunciation. So it's not determined by the degree of your possession and enjoyment, but it is measured by your attitude. What is your attitude? So you develop an attachment to something because you give a value. Now you know inwardly where you have a value for. You have value for money and what money can buy. You have value for name and position and status. What are the 7 things that entertain you? I've heard in the spiritual lobbies, great men constantly talking about it, about the things that fascinate the ignoramuses, the small minds. Name, fame, power, position, family, status. These are all that you're attached to. Name, fame, power, position, family, money, status. 7. I repeat, name, fame, power, position, family, money, status. These are the 7 things that constantly consume your mind. So you have developed, knowingly or unknowingly, a phenomenal attachment to it. You may have no attachment towards name, but you may have terrible attachment towards your money. You so attached to it, you were so dearly protecting it, as if it's like the mother protecting the child. Oh, it's everything. Money is everything for me. I hardly come across people who are detached to money. Very rare. That doesn't mean detachment. Again, go back to the definition. Doesn't mean, oh, detachment, you must get rid of it. No. It is not something you have to part with it to announce your spirit of detachment or renunciation. It is, again, go back to the analysis we said. You can possess it, you can enjoy it, but you have no value for it. Why have you no value for it? Because you have developed a value for something higher. You want to serve a larger cause. Your life serves a greater purpose. Money is not just an end in itself in your life. It's just a means to an end. But when you treat something as an end in itself, that is another way of expressing attachment. You develop an attachment when you look at something as an end in itself. Remember this, attachment is end in itself. But when you look at something as a means to an end, yes, everything has a place in my life. Name has fame, power, position, family, money, status. All of this have a place, but my life should not be defined by these parameters, by these limitations, by this. No, I wouldn't want my life to be defined by this. Life should serve a grander purpose, a greater purpose. I envision something beyond it. And that is precisely the theme of the text. Bhaja Govindam, O Mudhamate, O fool, realize your potential to seek the truth, the self. Why are you just merely content in seeking these worldly pursuits, mundane, servile? See, it all fits into the theme of the text. The theme is saying, oh, fool, distracted one, you have distracted yourself from, because you're not able to focus on the higher. This is all, you've lost your purpose. So to measure your level of renunciation or detachment, you must have all of those 5 things. Just because you have no capacity to, let's say you have no capacity to procure a luxury car, you say, oh, what is a big deal? It is just it's just another car, no? You just need a car to go from place to place. What's the big deal? You will philosophize and say, what's the big deal in having as RPG was saying, a German piece of machinery? What's the big deal? You may say it in that spirit, but inwardly you have a value. Because you have no capacity to procure it, you may say, what's in it? You may have a capacity to procure it, but no capacity to enjoy it. Your body has become too old to enjoy certain sensual pleasures. You may say, these kids will enjoy. What is a big deal? But inwardly, you have a mind is still craving for that sensual pleasure. Body can't support. Mentally, you are wanting it. So you have the object. Desire is there. The object is there. Capacity to procure is there. Capacity to enjoy is there. And you say, thank you very much. I may be with it, but mentally I have risen above it. This is truly a wholesome way of evaluating whether you are truly a person of renunciation or not. And when you have that state, it doesn't matter whether you are in it or not. It doesn't matter to you, isn't it? You've risen above it mentally. And Setuji rightly commented, when you give up the attachment, you automatically become a giver, as you have no value for it. Very true. A giver, it's not again parting because of pain or ignorance or any reason. You just have a greater purpose. Yeah, Reddy Garu, anything to ask?
No, Guruji.
You okay?
Yeah, it's clear.
Right. Yes, Hariji. Firstly, very good to have you back, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Piyush.
Yes, sir. Solomon.
Can we really give up anything in life consciously? If I consciously try to give up, it will keep on haunting me. If tomorrow can I take a decision from tomorrow onwards, I'm going to give up my need or my desire for these things. So I feel giving up is a term which we cannot actually practice in life. It can when I get when my need goes for the higher thing, the lower gets by itself dropped off.
Correct.
Whereas if I consciously try to give up something, it will keep on coming back to me.
Absolutely. In fact, going along with the line of thought, we are often told to give up the idea of giving up.
Yeah.
So please give up the idea of giving up, because you cannot give up. So renunciation is not giving up anything. On the contrary, renunciation is only embracing something higher, is only appreciating something grander or more beautiful in life. So it's a maturity. Renunciation is growth or maturity. It's being catapulted to a superior stature, a higher stature. So the lower, it's only what you lose is the value for it, and the value cannot be forcibly taken away from you, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's the growth, the value for something, or losing a value for something. It's a process.
Yeah.
You can't lose a value for something on a New Year resolution. As you said, from tomorrow onwards, I would want to give up something. In fact, many people, I've had a few people coming and telling that I've actually never picked up a cigarette and smoked thereafter. How do you justify that? What's an answer for that? I say, I have taken a decision. In fact, I was listening to an interview, of Ram. You know who's Ram? Lord Rama? Ushama, seriously, I'm not joking. Who is this Lord Rama, of that, what is that famous serial, Ramayana? Who played that, the role, the main role of Lord Rama in that serial? I can't recall his name. Yeah, Arun Govill, correct. So I was seeing an interview of Rama, Sita, and Lakshmana, all three of them on the show. And many people, one of the things he was saying, all the time, many people thought when he was going with his family elsewhere, they used to openly come and ask him, "Where's your wife?" So, "She's my wife." "What do you mean she's your wife? Where's Sita?" So she was only a character on screen, but they literally associated they were Rama and Sita. Now, he was talking about an instance in his life when it was still in those prime days where he was playing that role of Rama. In one other episode, apparently he was sitting behind, after a particular show, he was sitting behind the screen in a corner, catching a little time with a cigarette in his hand. He was a smoker those days, apparently. And somebody came and they saw, and he saw, and he couldn't digest him having a cigarette in his hand smoking. He said, "What? What are you doing?" I said, "What am I doing? I'm not doing anything. You're smoking. Why? We have always treated you like God. You're Lord Rama to us. And how can you smoke?" And he said, "It hit me so hard thereafter. So much commotion happened. People had to come and quieten the situation, appease him." And then he said, "It hit me so hard. That was the last day I ever held a cigarette. I never smoked thereafter. And it's more than 20, 30 years I've never smoked." So I'm just taking an example where here's a person, as an instance happened in his life, and he's given smoking, he has never touched it. As Hariji says, you can't give up something tomorrow and it will truly work. But how do you justify this, Hariji? So you may have a question. I'm only trying to find an answer to it.
I can give my own example.
Uh,
When I was studying in Germany, I used to eat non-veg.
mhm.
And though I'm born in a vegetarian family, till I was 21 years old, I was a pure vegetarian.
Right.
And when I went to Germany, then I couldn't afford a vegetarian meal because
Okay.
vegetarian meal was very, very expensive. So we were all compelled to have food in the college canteen, which was mostly non-veg. And when I
Right.
came back to Muscat, when I started attending
Vedanta
yeah,
studies.
Sudarshan,
Right.
from second class onwards, I became a vegetarian again.
Right.
So that is something, a conviction, you know, that I cannot exactly define it, but I didn't feel I didn't miss anything. Till the
Right.
time leaving non-veg, I used to miss it, though it was always there in my mind. But suddenly, from the next day onwards, I have not missed it till date.
Right.
So these are all undefinable moment, you know. How, why, no question. I felt it is not needed.
Perfect. So
The conviction.
mentally you were ready. It had, as you said, perhaps situations and circumstances compel you to take to a particular change in your food habits, but it's not that you, perhaps because of having to do it, you may have appreciated it and enjoyed it as well. But
Yeah.
when the first strike of an opportunity struck a chord with your mindset, which was innately you, it didn't matter to you. You know,
No.
it didn't affect you at all. So truly, you were mentally above it.
Yeah, could be. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a positive aspect. But you know, in many cases where people claim to have given up, if you carefully analyze their lives, they have only switched an avenue of indulgence from one to other.
Yeah. True. Very true.
So if they have stopped smoking, they would start chewing gutka or pan, or they start indulging into watching television, or they start doing another some other avenue of
Replacing
indulgence,
one with another.
replacing one with the other. So it is not truly rising above your attachment; it's just replacing your avenue of indulgence. So you have to be very careful when you do that. It's just substitution, correct, Padmanima? You substitute one with the other. All right. So please, this concept has caused more damage than any other concept in spirituality, the concept of renunciation. So please give up the idea of giving up. You don't have to give up anything and curse the Swamis. A story goes, no, so a young businessman went up to a Swami wanting to become spiritual. And the Swami kept asking, glad, he said, good, you came to this later than never, but I just want to know what is your lifestyle and what are the things you do. And he asked a really list of questions, and then a few things. He said, do you drink? Yes, sir, I drink. I go to the club every weekend and I drink. So obviously you can't do that and yet practice all these, those practices. So you have to give up. Yes, Guruji, whatever you say so. And then you smoke. Yes, I smoke. On average, I smoke 10 sticks a day. Oh, you can't afford to smoke and yet be spiritual. You got to give up smoking. Okay. And then you do this and do that. Yes, Guruji, I do all this. So that's why I want to become spiritual. Then he said, see, you can only become spiritual by giving up all this. So whatever your prasad, Guruji, I'll try my best. I'll give up. And as he was on his way back, he was just trying to introspect all that was said to him. So on one hand, he had a list of things to give up, 15 items to give up to become spiritual. He was a smart fellow. On the other hand, he had one item to give up. So he decided it's easier to give up one item than 15. So he gave up the Swami itself. So don't be fooled by all this impractical, unnatural practices. It is impossible, not even difficult, it's impossible to give up. So don't ever think of giving up anything. No person worth a master will ever tell you to give up. He only will advise you to inject this knowledge into your current activity so that you will start appreciating, and slowly the values for the lower drop off. That's all it is. But you have to, end of the day, you all understand and the importance of being true to oneself. I have to be true to my nature, isn't it? I have to go along with my nature and then change it. I can't abruptly change my nature, even though I may appreciate something higher. I can't run away. I can't get away from my intended nature, the flow where I'm going. Sir, I'm going at 70 miles an hour. And suddenly I realize, oops, I missed a U-turn. I had to take a turn there. Or let's say a turn is coming 50 meters ahead and you're at that speed. Can you take a sharp turn? Even if it means you will have to miss that, you will have to slow down and then take a turn. Turn for the right direction, but you've got to slow down. You've got to get a control over your personality. That's important. So any change that is abrupt and random or inorganic is not permanent. So respect your nature, appreciate, take a stock of your life, appreciate and understand what your values are, and inject these higher values. So with the due course of your appreciation of these higher, the lower will have a lesser hold on you. And what is the lower? Name, fame, power, position, family, money, status. All this is lower compared to Vaidyanathanji, sorry, Vijayaraghavanji, sorry. What are the, these 7 are lower to what, sir?
The 7 factors you have given, Guruji?
Yes, sir. These are lower to what?
To oneself. Attachment to oneself.
So can you please inspire us, sir? Inspire us to...
No, I took it as when you say lower to it, is there any other stronger attachment?
When do these 7 appear dwarfed and appear lower?
When we have a higher cause.
Yeah. So what could be the higher cause we all can be inspired, can conceive and work towards, so that we develop a natural detachment to this? Isn't that which Ushama asked, can we be detached to the family? I've just added a few more into that list. Work should you should continue to strive and put an effort. But that doesn't mean you should work only towards this. How long will you work for your family? How long will you work just for your name and fame and power? As you know, it's not easy to get rid of attachment. Now, who was that longest serving president? Robert Mugabe. He passed away. He was holding on to power, isn't it? Hey, every fellow who has tasted power wants to hold on to it. Little power you have, you not want to get rid of it, isn't it? So how does one rise above these strongholds? It's not easy, isn't it? It's certainly not easy. But these are the 7 fangs that are really holding you, pulling you down. There has to be something more stronger that can, you can get out of the clutches of the sheer gravitation of these pull that hold you down, pin you down. Something that should inspire you. Please, it should not be empty words. Self-realization, all empty words. I know it may sound very poetic and pedantic, but then self-realization, how many of us are inspired by self-realization? God realization. I'm being very practical, please. I'm trying to make sense of all what we are learning. Text says Bhaja Govindam, but does Bhaja Govindam inspire you? See Govinda inspire you, where you have developed a detachment towards all the 7? Yes, sir. I'm still with you, Vijayji.
Yeah. I was wondering, Guruji, earlier that, which comes first? You have to give up everything and renounce in a true sense to realize self, or you have a realization to give up these things. And I think what you suggested is a kind of a route. I mean, to my mind, still the renouncing comes first before realization and not the other way. I mean, I don't know whether I'm right or not. And this, I think we have answered what I was having a bit of a confusion in my mind.
So the question is, am I to get rid of the lower to get to the higher, or by getting to the higher, does the lower drop off? So this is the concern, isn't it? I think these are two pedals. You can only be detached to the lower when you get attached to the higher. And only when you're attached to the higher, the lower drops off truly. So to the extent you have mentally provided the space, it's like you can only change your, bring in new furniture to the house when you have created space for it. Isn't it? But if you have not created the space for it, how can you bring in new furniture? So the moment you have lost a charm for something, then you started appreciating something else. And the moment there's appreciation, you understand, hey, that is far better than this, man. It's a far glorious life than what I have led. I want to lead a life of sattva, not a life of rajas, not a life of possessiveness, not a life of stress and strain and worry and anxiety and pain and torture. I want to lead a life of glory and a life of a giver, not an aggrandizer. So once you have tasted that, little, even intellectually convinced with it, you want to take a step towards it. So it's creating of that space gives an opportunity to introduce something. And once you've tasted it, you want more there, you go more march towards that. And then this takes less importance, that takes a precedence over this. It is two pedals, both is essential. But I think it only starts with, even though I said two pedals, it starts with the higher coming into your life. And then you start seeing the futility in it. So for example, how many of us can start looking at these 7 aspects with a different perspective? Name, fame, power, position, family, money, status. I'm not saying you must, certainly don't give up any of it. Hold on to them very dearly, but start looking at it from a different perspective. Is there another can you give another dimension to it? Reddy Garu, can you give another dimension to all this?
Yes, yes, Guruji. I think having been realized that, having been realizing that, the realization is the first factor here to fame, passion, the position, family, money, all are the materialistic nature of world. So I'm sure, I think we should in a position to think beyond.
Correct. So it starts with a realization, isn't it? That life can serve a greater purpose, isn't it?
Right.
And if you do that, then comes what comes out of it. These all end up being the byproduct of it.
Right.
Isn't it? You will get name, you will get power, you will get position, you will get status. No, in fact, truly, what is it that gives recognition in life? What is it that gives fame? What is it that gives immortality to you, sir? Or to anyone for that matter?
A self-satisfaction. It could be the peace and happiness.
That is within you. I'm asking what gives you immortality to Srinivas Reddy? Even well after you're gone, you'll still be remembered. What gives you that fame? It is not how much fame I think I have created in my lifetime. No, real fame is when you are remembered.
So what I've been contributed to the society, what values have been inherited.
Correct. It's not what you have accumulated, what you have amassed and kept for your own near and dear. Is how much have you worked for the sake of others? You know, in history, we all have we all not learned in Indian history, King Ashoka was the great. Why King Ashoka was called the great King Ashoka? Why? A list of things we all had to answer. King Ashoka was a great was because he dug wells for the people. He planted trees for the people. He built home for the people, for the people, for the people. He became king because he was known, he was renowned, because he never did anything for himself. As a true leader or as a king or a politician, he worked for the people. Isn't it?
Yes.
So it's not what you have done for yourself. So where you get true name is through unselfishness, is through sacrifice, is through being a giver. And you can only give, I'm just quoting Siddharamanji earlier, I said, you can only be a giver when you're detached to it. When you're attached to it, no way you can part with it, no way. You can part with it physically, but not mentally. You have renounced it physically, but not mentally. So it all starts. So what this whole satsang is creating a possibility of envisioning something greater, just a possibility. And that possibility is that which encourages me to put in this effort. If this message can resonate and possibly inspire you to conceive a purpose of a cause beyond this mere instincts which draw you in and get bound you to it, I've done my job, what the Shastras are saying, just to give that possibility. And potential is there. I'm not creating that potential. You're born with that potential. It's just that I'm limiting it by just seeking these finite, limited ends. And there's no end to it. Believe me, there is no end to running behind it. No end. The only end will happen when you take your mind off it. There is no end to it. There is no end to any desire, because there's no desire that can ever be fulfilled. Because it only adds another, there's a chain in it. I just wanted a watch. I complained, I have no watch. Then I just wanted a watch. Then you get a watch. And when you go next time to replace the battery and you are amazed at the number of beautiful watches out there, which is much better than the one you had. And you say, I wish I get that watch. That's a nice watch, better than mine. How much is that? Oh, okay. Hopefully one day I'll come and get it. You got that. Then what? Another watch. Another watch. Go on and on and on and on and on. Is there an end to it? No. And then you come across a beautiful video presentation of a review of a beautiful yacht. Oh, wow. What a beautiful yacht it was. A thought got into you. You saw a review of a yacht. And then now you have entertained a desire to go in a yacht. You go in a private yacht, and then you have entertained desire to buy a yacht. You start a yacht with a small yacht. And then, hey, look at that yacht. That is much bigger than this yacht. And you get that. And where is the end? Ad infinitum. You just wanted a house for yourself. How long to live in a rented house? Where does it end? So there is no end, no satiation to any desire. Realize that. No end. Your life will be consumed, yet there is no end to it. You may say, oh, I have got enough, I have satisfied, but you're only fooling yourself. You're only fooling yourself. You got to learn. You got to really embrace this wisdom and understand what it is. And only when you truly understand and embrace it, that's when you slowly start losing the charm. Are you able to shelve your desires and put that aside? Shelve your desires, put your desires in the shelf, shelve them aside and say, let me pursue this goal. Let me pursue this higher cause. Not just chasing your desire day after day after, again and again, again and again. Mahati Vinashti, the greatest of losses. And once you have done that, mentally you are truly liberated. You are a true man of renunciation, where you are truly dispossessed by that dispossessive attitude. Seduramanji is saying all the 7 are temporary baggage. When did you realize temporary baggage, sir? Please share your wisdom, sir. Seduramanji.
No, Guruji, I didn't fully realize, but what I want to say is they are transient, they are not permanent, and they are baggage, they are pain. I've been realizing partly, but I'm fully convinced all of them are big baggage.
So what do you do with the baggage? I want to get rid of it, sir.
No.
Very painful. I'm having the suitcase on my, whenever, you ever go to a railway station and you hire a porter to carry your bags up to the compartment or the platform you want to go, you find these fellows put 3 suitcases on their head and 2 bags on each arm. And how are they managing? So after a while, you walk along with him, not able to keep pace with them. And then you say, your neck starts hurting. How is it they are able to carry? That's the kind of pain, isn't it? It's a burden. So when you feel a burden, what you want to do? When you put it down, so light I feel now. Yeah, the pain is gone. When you want to get rid of the pain, that is known as rajasic renunciation. The beauty is to have them and yet don't feel the pain. When you see a mountain, does the mountain become a burden on your eye? Just because it's a mighty mountain, it doesn't become a burden on your eye. It becomes a pain. So I'm really trying to not hair split your words, sir. Please don't get me wrong. The pain is why are these becoming a pain? When do they become a pain? Is anything wrong with name or fame or power or status or family? Is anything wrong with them? There's nothing wrong with them, sir, please. It doesn't mean all of us have to put on a uniform and run away from the world. It is not. That is not spirituality. It doesn't mean you have to physically give up. When does anything become a pain, sir? Only when I have developed a wrong relationship to it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the knowledge is only giving us the ability to relate with it with the spirit of total detachment. So I can continue to relate with it. You can relate to your wealth, you can relate to your business, you can relate to your family, but having the right value that there's a means to an end and not an end in itself. I have a right relationship with it. You get on with it as if nothing has happened. So it is not a burden on your eye. The family is not a burden on your eye. Your business is not a burden on your eye. The opinion people hold of you, name or fame, is not a burden on yourself to maintain it. It is, everything becomes effortless. Why? Because you have truly established in the higher. So we have to come to terms with sattvic renunciation is you're continuing to perform your duties, whatever you think is right. But the result of that is you have risen above it. So it's a mental rising over is what you have to clinch it. Never ever we should try to slip into this quality of either rajas or tamas. One should not give up because there's a pain in it. Not that you were suggesting, but again, unknowingly we may slip into that. You get where I'm coming at.
Yeah.
But what you rightly said is you have understood the hollowness in it, isn't it?
That's what I mean. Yeah.
I know what you meant, but it is not to be construed as I've clarified. But as you rightly said, it's a burden. Means it's a baggage. It's an unnecessary thing.
It's like, when we travel in the train, we don't carry the suitcase on the head.
Hope
We
not.
do.
Absolutely. So where do you carry, sir? Where do you put them? So complete the example, sir.
No, I am only a trustee. I don't need to have it on my head. I just keep it in its place and unburden myself.
So beautiful. I wanted it to come from you. I know you have those words. So you're just entrusted with it. You don't have to bind yourself with it, isn't it? As I and my, isn't it? That's the unnecessary bondage and the pain it causes.
They also say a teller doesn't think all his money is his. Every day he will be counting. Same viewpoint we should have with all our possessions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very well said, sir. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Yes, Hirenji.
Yeah, I was just trying to follow up with Sethuji's example that being on a train with the suitcase and you don't carry on your head, but you keep it up there. But you constantly you don't close your even eyes that somebody is going to take the suitcase away. Is not it true as well? I'm just kidding. That happened, right?
Yeah. That is also insecurity, isn't it?
That's also insecurity.
Yeah. You can always chain it. Apparently, that's what I'm getting an advice. Please chain it up.
Yeah.
You
That's
chain
right.
the suitcase and unchain your mind.
Yeah, that's right. That's a good way. That's a good way.
Right.
Okay.
So, yes. All good, Arpitji? Sriniji? Now you have examples?
I'm following and listening.
Now you're not less wandering, huh?
Less wandering, much
Less
more
wandering.
focused.
Much more focused. It takes time. It takes time, isn't it? Yes, sir. Yeah, Totaji. Yes, sir.
Am I on?
Yes,
No.
you're on. You're on. Yes.
Yeah. I have a question. How many people truly get to the point of renunciation? I mean, it's a good concept, but how practical it is. How many people really get to that point?
Everyone actually is. In fact, all of us are practicing renunciation in different degrees, that's all. You are truly renounced certain things. It doesn't mean anything to you because you have truly grown above it. Like Hariji was given an example of he had to take up being a non-vegetarian, and when things came, a change came, he adapted. It didn't matter to him. There are many people who had such experiences. I can talk of, I can know of, who lived all their life they have been non-vegetarian. And the first instance they got exposed to this knowledge, instantly changed their lives, instantly, as an instant. So they were ready for it. So all of us are practicing this unconsciously. These Shastras are only trying to expedite this process through a conscious system, through a methodology we all can adopt by embracing this knowledge. So we all are living a life of renunciation in our own way at different levels. We're all sattvic renunciation, but what differing in us is degree. And what we are trying to attempt is to raise the bar, is just to raise the degree. And yet, yes, you're right. How many achieve that absolute state of renunciation? A very small percentage, because you have to be extraordinary. It's like saying how many people have scaled Mount Everest? Very few. But yet there are many trekkers who scale many, many mountains. Many glorious mountains they've conquered. But to conquer Mount Everest is self-realization is like the Mount Everest. You can be a trekker. I am a trekker, but yet I can aspire. Yes, can I conceive to reach that state of Mount Everest? Yeah, there's nothing can limit you, isn't it? Can anything limit you? It's all in your own mind. So can anything limit me to achieve the state of realization? Nothing can. It's my ability to conceive it, work towards it, sweat it out, reach it. There's nothing can happen, nothing is impossible, sir. It's only a matter of your belief that, yes, I can get it. So to answer your question, we all are. We're only trying to expedite it through the process of this knowledge so that we can consciously imbibe the spirit of renunciation. And to conclude this, synonymous of renunciation is bliss. The Shastras say renunciation is bliss. To have this attitude of dispossessiveness is to live a life of bliss and happiness. If you want to live a life of happiness, you must embrace the spirit of renunciation. All right, sir.
Thank you.
Most welcome. Vijayji, yes, you want to say something?
I was thinking, Guruji, I mean, possibly is it a journey where you start off with the simplest of the things and start progressing towards stronger and stronger, because straight away we cannot start with the strongest things first. I mean,
Yeah.
Once you get used to start living without things, insignificant things, you start and then you keep going. I mean, which I think most of us do it to a large extent. I mean, already we leave a lot. As we grow older also, we give up a lot of things, you know, consciously, unconsciously, and we're able to live without them. Similarly, I think we have to say what else is left, and I think we progress towards the toughest things. Maybe one day we can reach 80%.
See, it is, so your sadhana starts with identifying what is your area of attachment. Start there. Your growth happens in the areas of your weakness, not in areas of your strength. So you have to find out what is your weakness of attachment and try to philosophize that avenue. Try to bring in this fresh perspective of renunciation towards it. Examine it, decode it. And then perhaps a time will come when you understand, why am I pondering so much about it? Why am I worried about it? Why am I anxious about it? So you try to consciously cut the thought flow towards that and then redirect it towards something higher. So I do not know what is your area of attachment. So it's, again, I'm saying your growth starts with areas of your weakness. Start there. But not the strongest point of weakness. Start with, you obviously can't. It's like if you have 5 loans, you have 5 loans, one loan is of $10,000, other loan is of $50,000, and then you have a house loan of $500,000. You can only get rid of your $10,000 in the next course of 3 months. $500,000 will take 20 years for you to get rid of it. So obviously you got to start with the most practical thing you deal with. And you can never ever measure your growth with $500,000 clearance. You will always be minus. So never ever measure your growth with the strongest attachment, which I've said is the family. When Ushama asked the question, family is the strongest attachment. You can't measure your spiritual growth with the strongest attachment because you still fail. But still there is growth, but it's not seen or perceived. The change is there.
So identification or realization is the first step.
Absolutely. Identifying your areas of weaknesses and start from there. You got to start from there. Okay. I think we can only take one more clarification. Yeah, Reddy Garu, you just overshot, but fair enough, please.
Yeah, quickly, Guruji, here I just getting recollected, like I was very passionate about the branded apparels. And in the due course of a time, I realized that I think we are hunting beyond those brands makes no meaning. Just get switched over to a cotton, a simple cotton, which can able to take care of, protects your body. That's it. End of the day, both are make same meaning. Go for the branded one and a non-branded one, and go for an expensive one to the thing. So that's the one area of realization where you don't really run beyond those things, and you don't get that color, that particular brand is not available. You feel uncomfortable and you feel disappointed. I think that somewhere where we're talking about a journey where it starts with your own areas of identifying where you feel and self-realize it. I think that starts with realizing yourself that brand and non-brand makes no difference in the whole of a life of wearing the clothes. That's it.
Really appreciate that that input, because what I would have expanded, in fact, when I get to 18th verse, I will mention of it. There's a concept known as standardization. If you're able to bring about this quotient of standardization in your life, you're able to take your mind off this constant, unending chase, isn't it? But once you have standardized, your mind is very much at rest, and then you can switch it to the higher, which is what you have done. I've standardized it. So otherwise there's no end to buying an apparel or a garment or any goods with brand. There's no end to it. You can spend $500,000 on a watch, or $1 million you can spend on a watch. You go and buy a Patek Philippe watch, you can spend anything costlier watch. Where's the end to it? Or you can buy a 100 rupees Casio watch and still serve the purpose. Or I know people who say we don't need a watch. Phones nowadays have time in it. Why you need a watch? So it is subjective. How you start standardizing it, and then what it does is it only ensures you're dissipating your energy into those avenues. It's so much of time is consumed.
Exactly, Guruji. Like I used to have fond of Rado. Now the day goes without any watch for me now.
So nice.
So the passion towards Rado, the watch and maintaining that, looking scratch, all this is a loss of energy for me. I said it's a waste of time. I said just get rid of the watch.
Is it Rajasic renunciation? Again, I'm coming back to it. So please wear it, keep it in good repair, yet you have no value for it, sir.
That's good.
Okay.
Yeah, good. Got it.
All right. Okay.
Thank
we
you.
will certainly come back to it. Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.